Hello, welcome back to the Man Overboard podcast, episode 30, which in itself is crazy.
Like when big 3-0.
When I started doing this, I didn't ever know if it would get past like episode 10. What was the stat you were telling me the other day about if you get past?
So I think it's if you get past 10 episodes, or it's like 5 episodes or something, you're in the top 10% of podcasts already, because most podcasts only get up to about 10 episodes in and then they kind of peter out. So the fact that we've got past that point puts us in the upper echelon of podcasts.
Oh, well, I'm buzzing. We are in the top 10%.
But we're nowhere near the likes of these podcasts that are on like episode 750 or something.
No. But we're doing good. We've had
One day.
We've had some great people. I'm absolutely loving it so far. And speaking of podcasts, Matty Healy went on a podcast the other week. Oh, yeah, you're already eye-rolling. I know this is going to go well. One of my favourite, well, he's not particularly one of my favourite people, actually. I just love the band. But I think it was called The Alex Friedman Show. And it's like a renowned comedy podcast. That's up to like episode 70, I know that much. So they've been going for much longer than us. But it's kind of known for like sitting on the edge and making some questionable jokes and statements and stuff. But yeah, Matt Healy of the 1975 went on there and he said some questionable things. I think the one that I saw the most, just because it was talked about a lot on Twitter, was he questioned Harry Styles' dress sense and said that he might have been gay baiting and just try to like dress like that to gather more attention from the LGBT community. I don't really know what to think of that. I think in some ways it's probably just him expressing himself, but it does also probably have that effect at the same time.
I don't think he's purposefully. I don't think Harry Styles would ever go out of his way to purposefully upset anybody in that way. So I feel like whilst it might be a byproduct of what he's doing, I don't think he's necessarily purposefully doing it, but I can see why people would presume that might be what he's doing. But the man looks great. The man's feeling himself. He wears whatever he wants to. Fucking go for it. I think it's a bit, I don't know, pessimistic to see it as somebody purposefully going out their way to do that when it's clearly just a guy who loves to dress crazy.
I also think that like Harry Styles, like I don't think him and his manager will have sat down. Well,
no, what are you going to say?
Like, I don't think him and his manager will have just sat down one day and gone, right, you're going to start wearing dresses so you get more LGBT fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there is no way that conversation happened.
And even if it was something that he had in the back of his mind at one point where he thought, oh, maybe this will do, it definitely wasn't the purpose of it. Yeah. So it's, yeah.
Although that beef between Harry Styles and like the 1975 as a whole, I think has gone back a while. Like, I've seen stuff about it even before Matt Healy did this podcast. He made a joke on the Newcastle date of the new tour where he said, because like when Taylor Swift came out, they put a name on the screen and then like she came out and did a song. And in the Newcastle date, they put Harry Styles on the screen and then Lewis Capaldi came out. So like there was already like that was a joke saying, oh yeah, as if we'd have him here. So they already had some kind of problem there. But there was a few other things that were said on that podcast as well. Something along the lines of, they were talking about someone who got caught with like child porn on the computer, which is like mad fucked up. And Matty Healy went, "Oh yeah, word." But admittedly, that's if you clip up that 3 seconds, it sounds pretty bad. But that's so obviously a joke as well.
It is. It's when I listen to it, as much as I dislike Matty Healy, and I would love to go in and say it's clearly not a joke. He's a nonce. He's a nonce defender. He's a nonce sympathizer. It was very evidently a joke, but I think it was perhaps the worst delivered joke that I've ever heard. And the context and the conversation they were having did not call for that kind of humour. And I just think, whilst, yes, he's, I mean, I can't say categorically that he's not a nonce. I don't think he is. It was just a very strange choice to make on such a public podcast.
I think it's just because that is what the podcast is. Like, it's a proper comedy podcast.
Was he pissed?
I don't know. I didn't.
I mean, it is Matt Healy.
Yeah,
so
I mean, maybe. But I also saw like the guy that did the podcast afterwards put like an apology video out, and he had Matty Healy sat on a sofa behind him going, right, say this now. Right, no, say you're really sorry. Say, and that kind of made me laugh. But anyway, there was a few other things said on there that were probably pretty offensive. I'm not going to go over all of them.
I think one, just to chime in on it, I think one of the main issues is the fact that, you know, Matty Healy's band and his fan base are very predominantly, well, to my knowledge, there's a lot of LGBT activism and people like that in that side of things.
They literally
And
have a song called "Love It If We Made It" and stuff like that.
There you
That's
go.
about like
So-
anti-racism and anti-homophobia and stuff.
So it's like a very woke culture that they've got around this stuff. So for him to be making jokes like that, it seems a bit about face from what their band is putting forwards as their music and their choices and that. And I get you can make jokes, you're allowed to be woke and still make jokes. It's just in a public platform.
I think
it's a tough one.
I kind of agree with you in some ways. The way I look at it is if he did like a stand-up comedy set one day and decided to make those jokes, people probably won't question it if it was on like a stand-up comedy stage. But he was just on a comedy podcast. It's meant to be like that. Every episode there's loads of offensive jokes. That's kind of the whole point of it. So I just kind of see it as, like, admittedly the things don't sound good when you clip it up, but it's not meant to. It's meant to.
I think the poor choice falls on him choosing to go on that podcast then, rather than them being, because obviously he's got that sense of humor, and it's fair enough. You can have that sense of humor. I'm not going to be the woke police and say you can't joke about that, because in the right context it can be funny. But weird choice.
I don't know why he chose to go on there. And there was someone else that didn't particularly know probably why he chose to or agree with his comments, and that was Yungblud. So after that podcast went out a few days later, Yungblud put a tweet out where he said something like, I guess when you turn 30 you turn into a misogynistic so-and-so, like pretty much saying, I guess when you turn 30 you turn into a dickhead, very clearly in Matt Healy, like it was so obvious. And it's funny actually, because I don't mind Yungblud. He gets a lot of hate like from music fans and within the industry. I've seen him a few times, and admittedly the industry plant stuff maybe definitely has some legs to it, but whenever I've seen him, he's actually put on a really good show.
Something about Yungblud that I didn't used to like him at all, because it was kind of in the same vein of what people have the issue with, like idols and slaves and bands where it's like you're clearly not working class, yet you're trying to put yourself off as working class. And I was on that boat fully for Yungblud, and to be on the hate train for this guy's not who he actually says he is. He's pretending to be working class and all this. But I watched an interview with him, and he was basically saying, like, I've never said that I was, and he says, in my first song, I basically came out and said I was on the Disney Channel, and like I admitted to all of my stuff, and he's like, I wouldn't call myself an industry plant. He was just like, I've been in the industry and I've admitted it and I've not tried to hide it. And it kind of made me see him in a slightly, I'm still not a huge fan of his music, but him as a person, I kind of give a pass now, whereas before I was a bit jaded against him. Now I'm kind of like, he's just doing him. So I'm like, I've kind of backed off a little bit. Matty Healy, different story, but Yungblud, I'm warming to him.
You're warming to him. Yeah. Well, no, but I saw him on Sunday at Manchester Arena, and then it was actually the next day. Matty Healy decided to take aim at Yungblud, most definitely in response to that tweet that he put out about him, and pretty much put like, so I'm not even joking about this as well. At Manchester Arena, like there was a bit where Yungblud kind of came into the middle of the crowd, and he sat on like a toilet and smoked a cig and like started reading a book and looking depressed, and there was like a narrative going over in the background.
Kind of like a stage show.
Yeah, like a bit of a stage show. But like I've seen the 1975 a couple of times this year, and I literally said to my friend that was there, I was like, oh yeah, it's just a B-Tech Matty Healy. Because like the rest of the show I know similar, but that particular bit, like there was a bit in the 1975 show where he literally stopped this thing, was sat on a sofa, sat back smoking a cig, and like there was a narrator going on and all that. So it was literally the same thing, but just sat on a toilet. And I said that before, like Matty Healy even did the video.
Which in itself is a downgrade anyway, going from a sofa to a toilet. But,
yeah. It's worse. But Matty Healy posted a video of that on his Instagram story, and then followed that up with pretty much a video of him just like rinsing Yungblud. Like he had some filter on which had like emo, and he was just
that with the
and he was going, yeah, fucking hell, guys. Well, I actually don't really stand for anything. I just like stand for things that like everyone should stand for. Like I don't actually do anything. I just say like things that everyone should say, and like don't. And he would like proper going in. Like he clearly wasn't very happy about that tweet. And I don't particularly stand either way on this. I kind of think like let Yungblud do his thing. It doesn't really matter. But at the same time, I would also say like let Matty Healy go on a comedy podcast and do whatever. But Youngblood's very like outspoken on any issue like that. Like that is his fan base. That is how he has built his fan base. Like when you're there, like the amount of things he says about like accepting everyone, and everyone here is accepted. We're all like a big family, whatever. So you can tell that something like that probably does actually offend him if that's really truly who he is.
Which is in itself kind of harking back to Matty Healy in 1975, in that obviously Yungblud is very much so into his music and the message that he's portraying, and you know he can take offense to things that he deems to be offensive rather than just brushing it off and going, oh, that was a joke. Whereas then on the flip side, you got Matty Healy, who is in a band that has that front, but him himself doesn't. You know,
yeah, the thing is,
because I personally would like, as an outsider, as somebody who really doesn't listen to either artist, I would probably imagine there is a large demographic of 1970 fans that are also Yungblud fans. Is that right? Or
I don't think so.
You don't reckon?
No. I think Yungblud,
because there's something in my head that maybe it's just me being, not knowledgeable in the kind of artists that they are, but it was kind of like Yungblud in 1975, and maybe like, I wouldn't say MGK, but there's other artists in that kind of field where I go, yeah, they all share the same.
I think there will be some crossover, especially maybe in the last year, but I think the 1975 fan base is a little bit older now, because they've been going since like 2013, whereas the Yungblud fan base, especially when I was there, it was all like younger people, whereas 1975, you would imagine most people were over 18. Yungblud, it was probably like 16 to like 20 max, with a few like older type that really love it. There will be a bit of crossover, especially because the 1975 have actually tapped into a younger audience with the new album and got on TikTok and got on all that stuff. And I think maybe because they do also portray that, like Matty Healy's banned from Saudi Arabia for kissing a guy there and stuff like that. So maybe the crossover's bigger than I know.
Because that's what I figured with Matty Healy being this kind of figure of fuck the system, love is love and all that stuff. I don't know, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way that he's been saying what he's been saying, considering what he portrays. But at the same time, he's free to do what he wants. I'm not gonna. I mean, I already don't.
Yeah, I think my last point on this is it was strange because as long as I've been a fan of the 1975, he's always come out with some really rash, weird shit. And like at one point, he was on fucking heroin while he was touring and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like Matty Healy's always been mad as fuck. Like this is nothing new. But I think because they garnered a load of new fans with a lot of especially younger fans that have never seen that shit and don't know that he was literally a crackhead for years and stuff, have gone, oh, what the fuck? He's not like a perfect like image guy. And then they've tried to like cancel him, and all the Harry Styles fans jumped on it and tried to cancel him. And I was just watching it on Twitter, like everyone going ham. And then 2 days later, they sold out Finsbury Park, the fastest it's ever been sold out. And you thought, well, yeah, because it's not all about people getting done on Twitter.
No, of course not. And at the end of the day, it's all about the music. Yeah. 1975 is a band. It's not just Matty Healy. Whereas Yungblud is Yungblud.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has the same band all the time.
Well, yeah, but the name is him. You know what I mean? It's not called Matty Healy and the 1975.
Yeah,
you know
true.
what I mean? It is the 1975. So to ban the whole band in one way is, yeah, it's not a good idea. But
yeah, but talking on cancelling people, you've been sending me a few videos this week.
There you go. You've been cancelling people
all week. You're done actually. No, but you've sent me a few. You sent me a few videos. This is where I just out you for something mad, and I'm like, it's game over. Yeah. That have been like Joe Biden. What's the word like?
Yeah, so this is this new wave of AI deepfakes, but it's deepfaking voices, and some of the stuff that's coming out is unbelievably funny, and it's just, they basically what they do is they feed a bunch of audio from these podcasts or a certain celebrity or just any figure into like a learning algorithm of sorts, and if you can have maybe a couple of minutes worth of somebody talking, you can pretty much generate any word from all of the sounds that'll be in there, the all those, and it'll just merge that into words. So what people have been doing is they've been making their own Joe Rogan podcasts with Jordan Peterson and then Ben Shapiro chiming in and all this stuff. Or they've been doing Joe Biden with Donald Trump in a Call of Duty lobby, and then fucking Obama pipes in halfway through. And it's hilarious, and I love it. And I think the people that are creating them are unbelievably creative to write these scripts that seem that they could very well be real. Obviously, they're very much not, because it's topics that they would never speak about. But overall, I'm personally a little bit worried about the potential that this has to, give misinformation out, because that podcast that Matty Healy was, for example, if somebody fed his voice and the stuff that he was saying into one of these, they could get him to say anything. Yeah. And then if somebody leaked that online and said, oh, I found this voice recording that Matty Healy sent me 4 years ago when we were e-dating, but he wasn't telling anybody. They could come up with some crazy backstory, release this voice message that's him saying anything, and the issue is how do you disprove it? because it's getting to the point where you just have to categorically believe the person who is saying it. So if somebody comes out and makes one about Joe Biden, and it sounds really realistic, and it's him saying, I'm going to go to war with Russia and all this stuff, should he come out and defend that and say, no, that wasn't me? I don't think he should. But at what point is it going to get to the point where, well, what do you believe? Genuinely, like, what do you believe at this point?
I think it's going to get dangerous because it's just going to start affecting like very real world things. Like at the minute, it's like an internet joke. It's just like people taking a piss. As you said, it's just like funny people that create memes and stuff, just having a laugh. But I do think it's right in terms of when it comes to like cancelling people, or when it comes to like maybe even like criminal investigations and stuff. Like, are you going to be able to differentiate at some point? Because the AI is just going to get better and better at doing it as well. So is it going to get to the point where you can't even differentiate between like the one that's fake and the one like the real people actually saying things?
That's it. And I think that's definitely the scary part of it, because along with that, you've also got the deepfake face technology, which albeit is very obvious when it's not, when it's actually AI generated, because you can tell, because it just doesn't seem right. It's always the dead eyes. They always have really glassy eyes, and it's just something about it. Your lizard brain kind of kicks in and goes, something's not quite right with this.
I've noticed you mentioned the lizard brain
Last
a couple of times.
Well.
Yeah.
It's because it's
of that Big Dean episode.
Yeah. But also in general, AI has kind of the way that we're going to be able to differentiate between what's real and what's fake is with our little lizard reptilian brain that's, from thousands of years ago, where it is looking for patterns that we're aware of. And if something's slightly off, you've just got to go with your gut and say, my brain tells me this video isn't real. As soon as you get that feeling about a video, you should probably run with it and realize this probably is a deep fake. But yeah, the face deep fakes plus the voice deep fakes, at what point are they going to have whole like government addresses where they could realistically, maybe not realistically, to an extent, what's to stop them from creating 2 hours worth of content from the House of Commons, using all the voices of the different MPs that are in there, recording them, getting them from all the past, finding 2 minutes of each MP, and creating a whole 2 hours worth of talking that they then put out on the internet and say this was a secret meeting that they all had. And you can guarantee there'll be a small percentage of people that will go, yeah, this must be real. How could this be fake? So it's scary.
My main hope is, as this becomes more common, because like people are like just like everyday people that are even that into tech are now very aware of like Photoshop and how good like Photoshopping stuff can be. So I would hope that within a year or two, when there is probably a few issues with this, and like you see it on the news or on articles and stuff where they're saying, well, actually, there's been this viral video, but we've proven it's not real. People will start questioning things a little bit more. But I think, especially online, everyone's so quick to come to a conclusion and jump on a hype now that sometimes like the damage can already be done. Like, because when someone gets like cancelled or gets accused of something, that spreads so much quicker than if they get proved guilty or like it never actually happened. Like the news of someone doing something wrong explodes online, even like if it's like a tiny thing. But then if 3 months later they manage to prove that they didn't do it, they've still lost half the fans, half their income, all the sponsorship deals. It's like might have even fucking been investigated by the police and stuff like that. So
there's quite a lot of cases where, I mean, one that I can think of recently, it's not that he didn't do it, but it's a good example, is Kanye. And that he came out and said all of this anti-Semitic stuff and it all blew up, and everybody knows Kanye loves Hitler. Well, everybody thinks Kanye loves Hitler and they think he loves Nazis and all this stuff. But when he apologized and came out and met up with a bunch of Jewish scholars or whoever he met and did all this stuff to kind of reconcile himself, and he realized he'd done wrong, media weren't reporting on that.
I didn't even know he did that.
That's what I mean, exactly.
I was a big Kanye fan.
And he's, from what I've seen, I don't take me like as gospel, but he has gone out of his way in the past couple of months to make reparations and kind of, say, look, I did wrong. But the media won't report on that.
I had no idea.
The only thing I've seen is that one video where he goes, I'm not bipolar, I'm not ADHD, I may be a little bit autistic. Yeah, that's the only video that came out, and the only reason that came out was because it was funny. So it got spread on the internet. But any other apology that he's made publicly or anything like that hasn't come out. Again, not defending Kanye, but I think it's good. It's a good example of what you're saying, where once somebody is thrown under the bus, it doesn't matter if they get back out, because to the mass majority of people, they don't care. They just care about the anger and the rage that comes out of it. So with AI adding to that,
scary times.
Somebody comes out and says, "Oh, actually, we've proved it that it was AI," and everyone's like, "Well, I don't care because I hate him now." Doesn't matter. You know
I've been listening to this audio book in the last couple of days, and it's called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, I think. Really good book.
Sounds like a Green Day album.
It does actually, yeah. But one of the like chapters at the minute that I've been listening to has been about AI and how the author of this book really thinks that in the next like 30 to 40 years, it's going to be like the next big thing to change the world, like the internet did. And the way that they explain it is in very obvious terms. They were like, even if it just keeps progressing at the current rate, which technology is like constantly elevating above the current rate anyway, so it probably won't. They were predicting that in like 30 years, a lot of like standard jobs won't be needed anymore. They weren't saying like, they were saying like physical jobs will be, like robots won't be capable of like doing surgeries and stuff. But they were saying an AI will be better at like, as like a GP, an AI will be better at like taking a picture of you or looking at a picture or listening to the symptoms, and it'll be able to predict what your health issue is better than a GP would. So what's going to happen is everyone who's GPs will have to train up to be a surgeon because there'll need to be loads of surgeons, but they're like that job will become redundant. And they're saying that the problem is not everyone can get to like past a certain skill level, especially in developing countries. They were saying like in a lot of countries, like I think they use Bangladesh and India as examples, like call centers. They were like, it's just going to be AI. They were like, we're not going to need that at all once it's a little bit more advanced. Like any questions about any type of technology, probably in like 10 years, it'll just be a robot speaking back to you.
Anything that requires voice. I mean, it's proven enough that we can make a very human sounding voice. So why the hell would we need people sat in call centers at that point when we can just get a robot in to do it?
Yeah.
Like,
and to me, one of the craziest things about it is like when you talk to like just like your everyday person, if I spoke to like my parents or my grandparents about AI, they'd go, oh no, I don't see any of that. But they forget that they've got an Alexa in the house and they've got a Siri on the phone and they've got like whatever, like they can speak to everything. You can speak to your fucking light bulbs and stuff.
So this is an interesting one because it was something that was actually brought up earlier today about AI. And I was making the argument, yes, things like Siri and Alexa are AI, but I'm at the point where, you know, you were talking about Photoshop and how all the people say everything's Photoshop, and they will sometimes say, oh, that's a Photoshop, to something where you go, what the hell are you talking? No, it's just a picture. Like, it just goes too far. I'm starting to get to that point with AI where people will call anything AI. I had somebody ask me if using a drag and drop app builder was technically AI because it's technically you're moving the code and it's figuring out what it needs to do. And I'm like, that's not. I think it's become very common now, and people are misunderstanding what it is and attributing other things to it. So in my opinion, things like Siri and Alexa, whilst they are artificial intelligence, aren't to the level of, you know, the art that we're seeing or the generation of faces and stuff, because it's just answering a question. At the end of the day, Siri is Google. And is Google an AI? You know what I mean? It's just a voice interaction, essentially, is how I see it now. So what I try and do is I try and band AI into
like a higher category.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like ChatGPT, where you're actually getting a full response and it's thinking about it and it's going, actually, no, this probably isn't the best way to do this. Siri, you say, what's this? I found this on the web. It's like, it is, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually do that kind of stuff. So again, I think it's not dangerous to categorize things. I just think it's interesting to see that AI has become a buzzword for people.
Yeah, that is true,
say
actually.
Anything's AI now. Like, you walk up to some doors in the supermarket, they open for you. Is that AI? You figured out that I'm here? It's like, no, what? No.
It's a Wii sensor.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I think until we get to, I'm not too worried about AI taking over the world and doing all this shit until we get to quantum computing. And that's been in the works for however many years, and they keep pushing it back because they think they're getting to the point now where they're saying that it might not even be possible ever. So who knows?
Do you know what my prediction for AI is? It won't, like, I don't think it'll turn evil and kill all humans, because I think, what benefit would it have to do that, really? Because like, even if it was smart enough to do that, like, you wouldn't have anyone mining out raw materials to, like, create, like, so, yeah.
It would need a global infrastructure to want to
exactly.
take over.
I think that what will happen with AI is it'll set apart normal people from rich people even more, because I think they'll have access to the benefits of AI, like the health benefits and the intelligence benefits and the ease of access to certain information and methods of how to do things, whereas poorer people won't be able to afford the algorithms or the technology to do that. So I think it'll leave a bigger gulf.
I think,
and not even money wise. I just mean like life wise.
Yeah. Just quality of life in general. I think that's an interesting point, and I think a good thing to compare it to, and the hype to compare it to, in a way that this will more likely happen, is the crypto NFT hype from a couple of years ago, where everybody jumping on that was going, countries that adopt Bitcoin, they're gonna blow up, and they're gonna be, they're gonna be the top of the GDP, they're gonna have the most money, and they're gonna have the best economy and all this stuff. And they kind of fed into the idea that crypto was gonna be the solution and NFTs are gonna be the solution, which it never was because it's currency. AI, on the other hand, it's entirely different ballpark. This isn't even close to that. And like you're saying, there's so many applications for it that there's a very good chance that first world countries will become upper echelon countries, and third world countries will fall to shit and will remain how they are now, whilst all these other countries are getting a big lift out of AI. And that's a good theory. I like that. I like that.
That's what I could see happening. Yeah. To be honest, I got that from the book I've been listening to, because it said that like she truly believed that the way it'll actually pan out is it just means that it's gonna. She said that it'll actually create two races of humans: one that are integrated with the AI and stay on top of it, and then one group of people who are effectively working just to make that work better and to get the raw materials and stuff for it. Whereas the other people are just going to be so elevated that it's like a whole different.
It's going to be
system.
Like. What's that movie? Wall-E.
I barely remember that.
But the ones where they're on the planet and they're just going around in the big hover chairs, they're all really fat. That'll be one side of society, and the other side will be the side that are working to produce the stuff together. That's horrible. What a dystopian thought that is.
It's not a good thought at all. But let's move away from the fucking depression.
The robots.
We'll move on to some current events. So this weekend there's a big boxing match between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury.
Can you believe it?
Finally. They've been teasing this one and announced this one twice before, but it looks like this is actually going to happen unless something goes really wrong for the second time in a row.
Like, what, 2 days?
Yeah.
I don't see it. Yeah.
Surely it's going to happen now, and they're both getting even more money. In Saudi Arabia, there's no excuse for either of them. What's your prediction?
Why do you always throw it to me first? I hate giving my prediction first. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I want you to give your prediction first, because I hate giving my prediction first, because whenever I give it, you go, I don't fucking think so.
Although one time you did say that you think Anthony Joshua would beat Tyson Fury, so that was a pretty questionable
all right,
one.
come on then. There we go. Sorry. Let's see.
So I think Jake Paul wins by way of knockout. I think it's a 6-round fight, so I'm going to say in like round 4.
Knockout in round 4. Fucking hell. I reckon they go all the way and it's on point.
Who wins though?
I'm going to say Jake Paul, and the reason I'm saying Jake Paul is because I'm in the side that there might be a little bit of rigging if it gets all the way to the end.
You see,
if it does the full 6 rounds, I can see it going in favour of Jake Paul regardless of the fight.
Maybe if there's like a bit of background business going on. But in my opinion, if it goes the length, I think that hands more favour to Tommy Fury, because he should be way better with his jab and stuff.
And stamina and just general,
But I do hear what you're saying. Like,
how many fights has Tommy Fury got?
I think he's only had like 6 or 7 pro fights, but they are all against like boxers. But he's had like a bunch of amateur fights. Plus the fact he's trained by the Furies, like he is a Fury. He is a decent boxer, but so is Jake Paul. Like we've said this a few times on the pod, but mate, he's knocked out like 2 of the best MMA fighters of all time. Which is
MMA. He's not boxing. It doesn't count. It's like he's still a sportsman.
Everyone forgets Anderson Silva had 2 boxing matches before he fought Jake Paul, so he'd already moved over to it, and he won both of them. He'd been training boxing for a couple of years. It's like, shut up, mate. He was one of the best strikers in UFC history.
It's just any excuse to shit on the little dog, innit? Oh, he's not even a little dog, just to shit on Jake Paul. And I get it, but cut him some slack. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think he'll win. I think the pressure will be too much for Tommy. I think he'll fumble it. Because his brother and stuff's been saying, oh yeah, if you lose, you've got to stay in Saudi Arabia. You're not welcome back in like the family home and shit like that, which he must be shitting him up.
And the thing is like, whilst it is a big match, I'd argue that Jake Paul is used to exposure like this. And if anything, loves exposure like this. So him in the ring, he'll be buzzing his tits off. You know what I mean? Like, he'll be over the moon, whereas there might be a bit of nervousness on the other side. So
yeah, 100%. Have you seen what Logan's been doing in WWE recently?
I haven't, no.
So he came into the Royal Rumble and did a fucking absolutely crazy move.
Was it the?
Yeah, side
I
to
did
side.
see that. Yeah, I did.
Mental.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Is it like most wrestlers don't even dare do stuff like that?
I think going off that and the frog splash he did on the commentator table, and like I think he's going out of his way to do these insane things because he knows if he wants to make a name for himself and to have people respect him, like wrestling fans, he needs to give the people what they want, and what they want is some high wire action.
Yeah, some exciting, because he's not going to be like the best technical grappling wrestler.
No.
But most like kids and stuff that watch wrestling are there for the excitement anyway. So he's certainly providing that. And then after the Rumble, so in the Rumble he eliminated Seth Rollins, who's like a massive name in WWE. He's been one of the biggest for years. Yeah, I think he's got a beard at least. He did at one point. Oh no, that's completely different. Anyway, so he's like long brown hair.
I know you mean.
Yeah,
I know you mean.
And then he came into there was the Elimination Chamber the other day. Rollins was in the match fighting for the US title, and Logan Paul came and opened the door and like used Rollins' finisher on him and then left. So it looks like them two are set up to have a match at WrestleMania, because that's in a few weeks.
Yeah. So they got a little bit of a rivalry going on there. I like it. I like that.
I rate that, like a little WrestleMania match between them two.
The thing is, as well, is that Logan Paul is going to massively be able to play into storylines because it's what he does. You know, he's an actor, so it's kind of the perfect role for him, because he's an athletic guy as it is. It's like. Yeah, he's fell into the right thing. Yeah, I think he's finally found the thing where he's gone.
So athletic, so much charisma. Everyone automatically hated him.
Yeah,
like,
which is what you want.
Although people have actually started turning to like him a little bit from what I've seen online, other than the fact he nearly cancelled himself the other week.
I mean, I've got mates who are staunchly against him. I don't know much about him, but are big wrestling fans. They're in the 30s, so it's like, oh, fucking Logan Paul's coming along, and they saw his frog splash and the off the top ropes and all the stuff he's been doing, and they've been going. Props to him. I can't hate on him for it. Like he's doing some impressive shit. So.
It's the perfect thing from WWE as well, because it is the type of thing where people that are even fans will watch that match. And like even me, I don't watch it like religiously like I used to. I just see the highlights. But whenever I see he's had a match, I'll share it to my mates and be like, "Yo, have you seen as if he managed to do this? He's only been wrestling for a few weeks."
It is impressive. It's impressive.
And then also he's had the maddest product placement with Prime. Been on that WWE stage.
Is he drinking it on there?
Yeah, he walks out with a can of it.
Does he? Fair play.
When he got eliminated from the Royal Rumble, so he had someone, I don't know if it was purposeful, but there was someone waiting like on the front row, and he went and sat on like the little backboard thing, and they passed him a can of Prime, and he started drinking
it. Definitely was purposeful.
Yeah. It's so,
that's
so
clever,
smart.
though.
And then they've also started sponsoring the UFC. They're now the official
drink of the UFC.
Mad.
Arsenal's official drink.
The official drink of the biggest fighting thing in the world. They've got like product placement on the biggest wrestling show in the world, and they've got it on the biggest Premier League team at the minute. Well, the top of the league. They're probably not the biggest.
One of the biggest Premier League teams.
Yeah, it's absolutely mental.
They've smashed it. And this is the thing that I always think, to be KSI, you know, as a gooner, he's to then have your product sponsoring the team that you've supported your whole life. Like that must feel great for him.
Yeah. And I think there's a big difference as well from what I've seen. Prime in the UK for any like Americans is like still really impossible to get a hold of over here. Like there's people still like queuing outside of shops before they open and getting all the stock.
Like I'll see people still posting on Twitter and saying like, oh, Sainsbury's in this place has got it, or oh, Asda down here's got it, and I just think like. It's insane the amount of demand there is for it over here, and it's not the bottles now. I'd argue that the blue, green, and just the red one. I think those are the three basic ones. They're relatively easy to get from what I've seen. That they're on shelves occasionally, but the ice pop one and
that Meta Moon is impossible.
And all of these
the grape and stuff
these
as
cans.
Well. Oh yeah,
nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
I don't even think they've officially been launched in the UK. You know, it's just American ones that have been
I
sent
saw
over.
a petrol station nearby, £25.
Oh, that's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So for any Americans watching, Prime is still absolutely impossible to get over here. It's proper expensive, and I've managed to get some of the KSI limited edition one. So we're gonna try it for the first time on here. I've not tried it yet. I've got the case like here, so I'm gonna crack one open, but. I didn't like pay 25 quid a bottle. I literally, I got it off the Prime website. I don't know if it's going to be in my camera angle.
You're gonna have the dark web.
For anyone on audio, I'm really sorry, but we're like showing the thing. So you got like a little Prime bandana with it, which looks cool. I'm not going to open it because it might be worth loads. And then you got a Prime T-shirt. And then you got the 12 bottles of the drink itself. I'm gonna have to, but look, it's pretty cool box design and stuff. To be fair, it looks.
I like the
nice.
paisley patterns and everything.
Yeah, they've done a nice job of it. The branding of the drink is certainly one of the main positives to it.
Definitely.
Oh, let's get this out.
Oh, you know the one thing I don't like?
What?
KSI's logo. He clearly did it when he had his YouTube channel. He just kept it since.
It looks a bit like a heavy metal font, doesn't it? You know, like a heavy metal band.
Yeah. It looks like a kid's scroll.
Right. Are we ready? We're ready. Try this?
Oh, we're ready.
I am pretty excited. You can see I've literally not opened this. It's 12 bottles. The KSI Flavour Prime. Gotta get it in for the clip. Get it in. Anyone on audio, this bit will be over in a minute. I'm sorry.
You can give me a whole one.
Yeah, you can have a whole one.
Nah.
There's like 20 quid right there. I'd be grateful.
I owe you money now, I think.
I'm got to play squash after this podcast, so I'm going to actually take it with me.
Yeah, good idea,
like, genuinely. Man. Right.
So what are we playing with here? Have they given a flavour for it?
Yes, so it is orange and mango flavour.
Orange and mango.
Limited edition, so they released so many on the website, and they've released, I think it was like 1 million of bottles or so to Sainsbury's. KSI put how many on Twitter. But from what I've seen, I went into a Sainsbury's near my work the other day, like just to grab some food, just grab some noodles, and there was none left already. So I imagine that it'll be selling out real quick. And I've seen that box was like 40 quid, 45 quid. They're already selling on eBay for like £100.
This is for you.
Yeah,
it could have sold this box. Well, I mean, it's for us because
I do want to try it as well. Though.
I do, yeah.
Oh, spilled a bit. Right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers. I feel like I'm having a pint.
Here we go.
Ooh.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's decent. Do you know what it kind of reminds me of? Like, because I'm not just going to lie and say it's like 10 out of 10. It kind of reminds me of like an Oasis.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Reminds me of the yellow Oasis with a bit more of a mango kick.
I like it though.
I like it.
I would buy that.
I would buy this. However, I would say that I wouldn't buy it for the price that people are selling it for.
Oh, no. Like, if I seen it in the shop for £2 like it's meant to be.
Yeah. Then I would pick it up. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I actually do quite like that, though. What are you saying? So, limited edition, KSI, what are you giving it out of 10?
I'm going to give this drink a solid 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm not going to go much higher than that. I think a 7 is me being kinder than I should be as well.
Yeah, I was going to say 7. I feel like I should say something different now, but I would probably give it a 7 out of 10 as well. It kind of reminds me, it's like a mixture between...
It's like Rubicon.
It's like an orange Lucasade with a bit of orange Oasis in there.
So I'm feeling like either Rubicon or like a Lilt style drink, but flat. That's what I'm going with. Or... This isn't a part of them, but the orange and mango Robinsons. It does kind of just taste like squash. So I mean, what can you say about that? But I'll give it a pass. I will give it a pass.
Yeah, I would drink it. I actually preferred the blue one.
Yes, the blue one was really nice.
I've tried the blue one, which I'd probably give like an 8 out of 10. Actually, I quite like that. The red one, I'd give like a 2 out of 10. The tropical punch prime, I thought was disgusting. You're just getting the little
prime now.
We're just gonna get the thumbnail. It's just us holding a prime bottle. No, but I do like that. Big ups to KSI, a decent flavour. Definitely better than the tropical punch. I can't comment on the grape and stuff because I've not tried them.
I mean, I think I'd like to try the grape one. I think out of all of them, that's the one that I would probably vibe with the most. But I mean, this one's good, but the blue one, there's something about it. I don't know what it is. It's not quite Gatorade. It's not quite Powerade. It's smoother. It's got a bit more. I really rate the blue one. I'd probably give the blue an 8, you know.
The weirdest thing about these prime drinks, in my opinion, is like there's not really any sugar in them. Like in this one, there's 2 grams of sugar, and it tastes like the sweetest drink I've ever had in my whole life.
That is one thing that I think they've nailed pretty well with these drinks, is that whilst they are like jam-packed full of sweeteners, you do get the aftertaste on your tongue, you know, when your mouth's a bit, which you get with sweeteners. But the actual taste itself isn't heavily, like, fake. Like, you can taste that it's fucking drinking this, apparently. So the taste itself, you can tell, isn't, like, you know, it's not overly sweetened. Like, because sometimes with, like, you know, cheap, sweetened, sugar-free drinks, they pop out. Whereas with this, I think they've got the balance right with flavours plus sweeteners, and it's
it's good. It's and one thing for anyone that's over 18 that's out there as well, it's actually a really good hangover drink.
True.
Like, I think because it's literally meant for when you're knackered. Like, the reason for it is like an exercise drink, so it's meant for when you're knackered and you've got no electrolytes and stuff like that. So one time I woke up really hungover and I had like the blue one, and it actually like perked me up a little bit. Like it took a little bit, but I feel like once it got into my system, started making me feel good.
Get you pumping, get you going, getting ready for the day.
I was actually just sat on the sofa dying, but I mean, it was slightly better than I would have been anyway.
Readier than you were. Yeah.
So moving on from the prime. This is a funny one, I think. Right. So
what are we going to?
You know MGK.
Oh, I know MGK. I know MGK. I know MGK.
Your best friend in the world.
Oh, yes.
You hate his music. Probably hate him as a person as well, actually. Yeah. He said some sus shit in his day.
Yeah, he has. But, and also, for context, I'm a big Eminem fan.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't help things.
I always forget about that little beef, mate. It leaves my head. But, yeah, MGK and Megan Fox got married like a couple of years back, right? And, like, Megan...
Did they get married in the end?
They've got married.
They had them mad rings.
Them crazy...
Take them off or
crazy rings that stab you.
Apparently they had to.
Carry on. One of them's got a finger missing. They're like, did you break up? Well, what do you think? But no, so them two have been together for a little while. And it came out, like, this week that... It was big rumours that MGK had cheated on Megan Fox, which to my brain is mental because Megan Fox is like the one person. It's kind of weird. I don't know if it's like this in America as well. I would guess it is. But in England, it's like Megan Fox is the one that everyone looks at and they go, oh my God, like I would marry her. Like when you were in school, if someone said if you could get with any girl in the world, everyone would say, oh yeah, Megan Fox, 100%.
I mean, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It was like the token answer. Even like my gay mates have said I used to just say Megan Fox when I didn't want to tell everyone I was gay.
Yeah, it's just the easiest way.
They're like, yeah, I'll just you get
Megan
a pass.
Fox. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh yeah, she's fit. Yeah, it's fine. But imagine like cheating on her.
Right, I know. Yeah. So when the whole thing came out, it was very up in the air, wasn't it, as to who was telling the truth, where these rumors have come from? Because I thought Megan Fox created MGK. That's what she said. She said she manifested him. When she was a little girl, she manifested him into existing, and that's how he was born, and she created him, and that was the whole... Yeah, this is what I mean. So there was all these stories, and then they broke up. So it wasn't a very good manifestation, was it?
I mean, thought you meant when they told the story about how they met, and they was like, oh, and he appeared in a plume of
I am
smoke
weed.
and said, I am weed. Yeah, them two have said some questionable things.
Some. That's all they've said for their entire fucking relationship was questionable
They've got a ring that bleeds when they take it off, and they said they drank each other's blood when they got engaged.
Yeah, so it's a ring that apparently has spikes on it, so you put it on one way, and it's kind of like a chastity belt type thing, where you can put something in it, but then when you try and take it out, you get cut down your fingers. But I'd like to see their fingers now. If they've taken these rings off, I want to see how true that was, because I bet it was bullshit.
Yeah, of course it was. It was good publicity, though.
Oh, it was.
And I saw loads of people's like sharing a fake thing that she'd followed like Eminem on Twitter. On
Is
Instagram.
that fake?
Yeah, of course it's fake.
Is it fake?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Who else was it? It was like Eminem.
There was a couple. There was
Kanye
three people. There was three people that she
yeah,
was following.
that MGK clearly has beef with, and I was like, "There's no way that's real." And she didn't. She deleted her Instagram completely.
Because I thought that. Because when I went to fact check it, I was searching for Megan Fox, and I was like, "Where's her account?" I was like, "I can't find her account." Yeah, exactly. It's gone. Yeah. But then she put out a statement, didn't she?
Did she?
She put out a statement saying that none of this stuff about MGK is true, and it was nothing to do with him cheating. It was nothing like this. Please stay out of our business. Oh. You missed that bit.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Did you miss that bit? Right. Let me quickly look it up.
Yeah. Well, that's. I would guess that's probably true then, unless they like really made up. Because as we were saying earlier, the internet is good at spreading information quickly, even if it's not true. Because like I never actually saw like any screenshots or saw anyone that he was meant to have got with. I just saw that he was meant to have got with someone.
Yeah. So Megan Fox supports Sophie Lloyd after denying Machine Gun Kelly cheating rumors. The 36-year-old addressed the false accusations about Kelly's affair in the comments of Lloyd's recent Instagram post after she reactivated her Instagram to shut down the cheating rumors.
Oh, well.
So she came back and said, look, he hasn't cheated on me or whatever. But that guitarist was an interesting one because I think she was a guitarist for MGK, and I think that's the person that people thought that MGK cheated on Megan Fox with.
All right.
And then it seems like they've all made reparations because they're all friends again.
Well, that's fine then. Well, I thought that it was still open-ended.
She's come out and said that.
Well, big ups to the best couple in the world.
Nah, because they're not together. I don't think they got back together. I think they're broken up.
Oh.
But I think she's saying it wasn't cheating. I think she's trying to clear up. She's trying to say, look, MGK, he's been a dickhead to me, but it want that. Yeah. I think that's what's going on. I'm not fully clued in. I was hoping you'd be more fucking clued. You were clued in up until that very last point.
Yeah, I didn't know.
The pinnacle bit of information at the end of the story.
I just saw the rumour and thought, that's crazy.
I just throw it in because I didn't want to put this out and people were like, what are you talking about? You didn't cheat on it. Oh, fuck.
Just like 4 days later after the statement. No. I was going to do the worst segue ever then. I was going to go, speaking of cheating, at least Xbox isn't cheating on Nintendo, but that didn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's good that.
I've said it anyway.
Yeah,
but,
it's good.
Away from the MGK thing, there was no way to segue between them.
No, I don't know where you were going to go.
I didn't. Moving away. Well, how was I meant to say it?
I don't know. MGK, Xbox, Xbox. I don't know. Yeah, carry on.
Moving away from MGK. A big thing in the news, Xbox bought, or are in the process of buying Activision at the minute. So Activision own a lot of the biggest IPs in the world. They own Call of Duty is the biggest one, and then they own World of Warcraft and Candy Crush and stuff like that. But they have their fingers everywhere. And a lot of people were worried about what that would mean in terms of exclusivity, because Xbox have struggled with exclusive games in the last few years. Like, obviously, they've got a few Bethesda ones coming out this year, but they've been a long time coming, and they could really do with a big hitter. They didn't actually, but I'm sure they did it as a team, actually. Them and Nintendo released a statement earlier this week, which promised gaming fans that Call of Duty will be brought to Nintendo consoles as well for the next 10 years.
10-year deal.
So they'd signed a contract, which is pretty mad in my opinion. The main reason that I was a bit baffled by that is Call of Duty isn't even on Nintendo now, is it, at all?
So this is one of the big things that's kind of spurred off from this news coming out, is the fact that Nintendo's next console is going to have to be able to compete with the likes of whatever Sony and Xbox and whatever Sony and Microsoft are next going to be venturing into, be it they stick around on the current consoles but release a premium version later down the line or something. People are speculating now that either there's going to have to be a massive downgrade for Call of Duty to get it onto the Switch or the equivalent of the next console that they release. So they had Call of Duty and Medal of Honor and stuff like that on the Wii. Mm-hmm. And it was fucking dreadful. It didn't work because of the controls as it was. It was quite fun for what it was, but in terms of it actually being, graphics wise and gameplay wise, it was, lackluster. So either the two options here are that, there's three options technically, which is Nintendo are going to release a superpower console, the likes of which they've not done before, and it's actually going to be able to compete with the other big dogs. Mm-hmm. They're either that or they're going to allow for streaming on the console, so streaming games in the same way that Games Pass works on certain devices. And
you can get it on the Steam Deck and stuff.
And you can stream it through to it. So it's not actually running on your device. It's external and then you play it. Either that or Call of Duty gets a major downgrade for the whatever console comes next for Nintendo.
I would more imagine that it's the last one. I mean, I think it'll be that Call of Duty will remain just as powerful on the big boy consoles. I think that it'll just be a different version. There's Call of Duty Mobile already, but I'm guessing that they just haven't signed an agreement with Nintendo to allow that type of game on there. Otherwise, obviously they would because of microtransactions and stuff. Because I think it'll just be a watered down Warzone that goes on there.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Do you reckon? I personally, whilst I do, I'm mostly agreeing with what you're saying, I would like to think that Nintendo are going to try and push the boat out and come out with something that is somewhat competitive, but I don't see it due to their track record of always being, this is more of a family couch playing, this is not really for online, which is again why I don't think, to kind of counter one of the other points, which is streaming, I don't see that happening because Nintendo have a really weird relationship with online capabilities. They just don't ever focus on them, and when they do them, they're dog shit. Like the Switch, when it came out to speak to people with voice, you had to have an app on your phone to join a party with your Nintendo ID. To add people, you've got to have a 16-character long friend code and all that. And it's, I don't know what fucking world they're living in that they can do all this advanced shit and make your console this big and it all fits in and you can dock it and it goes on the TV, but they can't let you add somebody by name. So for them to introduce streaming onto a console, streaming games onto your console, that would take a lot of net capability, and there'd need to be a lot of up and down. So I don't see that being an option either.
No.
So I think streaming is probably out of the question. I'd like to see them try it, but I think we're either going to see a watered down Call of Duty or...
Yeah, I just don't think that Nintendo are going to try compete with PlayStation and Xbox in like a big console, because the last time they did like a proper console to compete with them was the GameCube, and then the Wii did sick, the Wii U were a bit shit, and that was kind of more of a mixture, and then the Switch has done so well because it's so different. I don't think they'll move away from such a... Like the Switch has sold more than the PlayStation and Xbox in the last generation. I think it has. It's very close. It's definitely sold more than Xbox. So 100%.
Well, I mean, the Wii sold a shitload as well, didn't it?
Yeah. So I don't think that they'll like all of a sudden switch and be like, no, we're actually going back and we're going to try fight these lot. But then, if you take into account the Switch OLED, which is already pretty good, if they upgraded that like a fair bit, you could probably play like a basic campaign and stuff on there. Because I've played like Resident Evil and stuff on my normal Switch.
Do you not think it's possible that they might release a console alongside the Switch?
Maybe.
And have an actual full-on console that you can't take places and stuff, because that was the issue with the GameCube as well, was they tried to introduce it, but it came with a handle on it so you could take it to your mate's house, and they've always been about co-op and sharing it and taking it to your mates and playing it here and playing it there. They like kind of it is family-based consoles is how I would describe Nintendo. It's a very family gaming kind of,
and
let's have everybody in the living room and play Mario Party together or Mario Kart. It's all very like that. There's a couple of games that are out there, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, stuff like that.
Yeah, but even they're like very family, like they're safe.
Very bright.
You'd let your kids play them.
Yeah, of course.
They're not like people getting decapitated.
There's a couple of games on the consoles that are 15,
yeah,
and those kind of games, but that's bound to happen. But I think in general, it's a difficult one. I don't know what they're going to do.
I don't, but I am quite happy about it.
I'm over the moon. I think it's diversifying, and it also gives Nintendo a chance to try and gain some of the traction back that they haven't lost any. It's weird because it's not like they've lost anything, but I also feel like if they were to go down this route, they have a lot to gain.
Yeah, but
I don't think they've lost anything. I think what it is they're in their own niche, and if they start compete with the big dogs as well as being in their own niche, Nintendo might become a fucking powerhouse.
Well, I think that you don't realize how big of like Nintendo is just as like.
I know how big they are, but I just think
it's bigger than Xbox though.
I just think
you just think of Xbox as Microsoft.
I think in comparison though, in terms of the consoles, I don't think comparing the Switch to an Xbox or a PS5 is fair.
Oh no, true. No, I get you in that sense. They're made for different things.
So I think if they kept the Switch going and also released a competitor that would be an actual just station next to your TV like the Xbox or PS5 and had the Switch.
Do you know why I don't think that's going to happen even more now?
I don't think it'll happen. I don't
No, but like the thing that just clicked in my head, why would Xbox do that?
What, sign a deal?
Yeah, like if they knew that they were going to become a competitor, because they'll have had to like shared plans for the Call of Duty and stuff, why would they buy that to then give it to a main competitor?
Point. Yeah, that's a good point.
That'd fuck you up.
That's a good point. I like that. That's
so
good.
It must be some B-Tech Warzone.
Well, my next question on this front, whilst we're on consoles, when the fuck's the next handheld coming out? I get the Switch is a handheld, but when's the next DS? When's the next PSP? When's the next? I just want
a little one.
I just want a.
Well, there is some. I can't remember what it's called, but
PS
there's like
Vita. Did they release a new one?
Nah, none of them lot have done for years.
No.
But there's companies now which like you can get like little handhelds now which either come with loads of games on, or you can get ones that play like all the different GameCube Game Boy games.
Yeah, I know those exist,
but they're like the best quality you're really gonna get. I feel like they've got that niche, and then if you want a proper handheld, which is what they are now, you've got like Switch Lite, or the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck's mad. You can play like any game ever on there.
Steam Deck is good.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, if you get a 3DS, you can just hack it anyway and play any games you want on there. It's really easy now because it's so old. But more so, my question is just, I get what you're saying about handheld and you can play the old ones, and you're saying that other companies do it, but I don't know, I kind of like to see one of the big dogs do another handheld.
I'd like to see,
like I say, the Switch is a handheld, I know that, but I mean a fucking pocket. Slide it in your DS size.
I'd like to see a new PSP. I wasn't really around for the PS. I never had a PSP or a DS. I had I had a Game Boy and a Game Boy Advance.
How the hell did you weren't around for the DS though?
I just never got one.
True, you skipped that generation.
My parents never got one. But yeah, I'd like to see a new PSP. I think that'd be quite cool. I think a lot of the PlayStation IPs, they could make like good spin-offs that'd be easy to play on a PSP. And like they were successful up to the Vita. They all sold really well, so I don't really know why they stopped. But then PlayStation are on with like VR and stuff out there instead. I feel
They
like
just dropped the
everyone's
VR too, didn't they?
Again, I think it's a similar situation as to I don't think Nintendo will join the big dogs because they're doing like the big consoles because they're doing it so well. I don't think the big consoles will join handheld because Nintendo are doing it so well. Like that's the Xbox have pretty much said we're not going to do it by agreeing to put COD on there.
They've basically said, "Yeah, you can have this IP instead, and we'll just take money from that."
I wonder if they knew that PlayStation are planning a new PSP, and PlayStation asked them like, "Can we sign a deal to get a COD on there?" And they were like, "No, we'll give it to Nintendo."
We're going to give it to Nintendo. We'll see what they do. Yeah,
if they actually did that, I'd rate that. Yeah, but no, I'd like to see. Yeah, PSP would be tasty.
Anything. I just like to see one of them try it, but they won't.
And to be honest, I just love seeing more gaming consoles come out. I was watching a YouTuber, you'll know him, he's called Mr. Who's the Boss. And he was like, he'd bought every Xbox console ever, and he's done this for like Nintendo and PlayStation as well. And I find it so interesting watching it. It was like the Xbox Series X is like 1.6 thousand times more powerful than the original Xbox.
It's insane, isn't
and
it?
Like because you're
talking teraflops.
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the fuck's one of them? You know what I mean? It's making words up at this point. It's that fast that they've ran out of words. They go, it's got 18 teraflops.
And I'm just like,
yeah, well,
sounds good, mate.
Yeah, give us all them terrors.
Can I still play Apex Legends? With fucking Pathfinder from Ant-Man.
Is Minecraft on it?
Well, I say we call it there because I need to eat and go play squash. But if I'm going to leave anyone with one message from this at the end of the podcast, it is don't be a dick.
You heard it.